Hello and welcome to Teenagers Untangled, the audio hub for parents going through the teenage years. I'm Rachel Richards, parenting coach, journalist, mother of 2 teenagers and 2 bonus daughters.
Hi there, I'm Susie Asley, mindfulness coach, mindful therapist and musician and mother of 3 teenagers. 2 of them are twins.
You got it out this time.
I did. It's been so long this summer that I can't remember who I am or what I do.
Susie, welcome back. So nice to see you. Susie, your son was taking driving lessons, wasn't he?
Yes.
Has he passed?
No, he hasn't actually. Right, he had a massive break, but he's actually back into it now and is going to do his tests.
Good. So we're both in the same boat. Yeah. Good time to be talking about driving. In this episode, we're going to talk about teen driving rates. So how many teenagers are actually passing and driving around. Changes that are being made as a result of what insurance company data is telling us. And the things we parents can consider when talking to our teenagers who are learning to drive.
Ooh. Yeah, I've got 2 turning 17 in December.
It's all going to come at once, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh. Now, first of all, we had a review from Benedict who said, "Hi there, I love your podcast and your insight into teenagers' lives. I understand that connection is one of the most important pillars in our relationship with teens. However, what about if the teens don't share much? My 2 boys, they're boys, are 17 and 15. I try to ask them open questions, but answers are always very brief and they would rarely voluntarily share stories or emotions. Help. What do you think, Susie?"
Well, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, sounds awfully sexist, but boys are different. They share less, I think, in general. Not all boys, obviously, but in general. And I don't know, in my experience, mine aren't... Yeah, they go in phases. Mine aren't massive sharers, particularly one of them. I think it's finding, anyway, in my experience, it's finding what the connection is. So that particular child, humour. So if I go in and, he's actually told me in the past where I've gone in and tried to be super empathetic when he's maybe had something about his dad or something, and I'm asking really open questions, and then he's turned around and gone, "Mum, you're not helping, you're making it worse." And I've gone, "Oh, okay." So it's finding what is the connection. And for him, I think it's humour. And if we have a light humour and a connection, like build that connection, and it might be something else. It might be doing something creative. It might be doing something sporty. It might be doing something else. Boys are very much doing. Then once you've got that good connection, then they'll just, I think, anyway, mine do, just drop little nuggets in, and then you can go,
pick up on them, grab them when you see them. Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, because I think we associate, particularly if we are talkers, we associate connection with conversation. And actually connection can be done in so many different ways. It can be sharing, watching a game together. It can be going to a film together. It can be enjoying, we both like coffee. With the ways in which we connect on a daily basis don't need to be about having conversations. No. But I also think, I hope, Benedict, that you've listened to the interviews I've done about masculinity, because there are so many times when boys are they learn that they should really shut down and not say what they're really thinking and feeling. And it's so ingrained that it's very difficult for them to just suddenly start talking about how they feel. So finding ways to connect that aren't about talking can be incredibly powerful in giving them a safe place where they think, "Oh, well, I'm accepted here," and then they feel more safe about talking about other things, maybe.
Absolutely, 100%. I think some of the best openers I've had with my other son is sitting on the floor mucking about with the dog. Like, it doesn't have to be going and doing something interesting, just frying an egg or doing something like that, and then just dropping something in. And sometimes they shut you down, and sometimes they're open. And you just have to pick your moments. Yeah,
and also the Brendan Kwiatkowski, who talks about masculinity, he said one of the things that's really useful is sometimes just leaning on the statistics. And you can say, "Oh, I've read that such and such a boys are like this," and just chuck in something you read, something you've seen in the news, anything, and just get them to talk. And when they talk, just listen. You don't have to have an opinion. Just so they know that they've got a place where they can give their opinions and they're heard.
And I think sometimes they get quickly super sensitive if you come in with like a particular sentence opener that you maybe have read or you think's going to work, or maybe works with your other kids. and it doesn't work for them, and then they hear it and it's like a red flag, and they're, oh, mum's going down that road, I'm out of here. So, just try something else.
Yeah, and don't worry, we all mess up. It's okay. If you try something, it doesn't work, fine, just try another thing.
Yeah, and I genuinely believe that as long as they understand that there is a space, there is a capacity for that space when they need it, they will come and use it.
Understand. Yeah, exactly. So another listener has said, I love your podcast. As a single mum who has a 12-year-old son, it has been a great help in preparing me for the teen stages. Slightly awkward question. How would you deal with modesty around the house? My son has mild autism and has yet to develop a feeling or need to be more modest. Is this a bad thing? Should I step in? I know, so,
How
my
old is he,
goodness.
did she say?
He's 12.
He's 12. Oh, so not very old. I mean, I honestly think that we were kind of obsessive about not showing our bodies in our culture. I mean, it's obviously different in different cultures. I lived in Denmark for years where they're a little bit more laid back. And like my boys were, cover up, don't come in the bathroom from an early age. And I was a bit like, it's just your body.
I know.
And it's fine. Obviously, I totally respect their privacy and would never do anything weird and make it awkward for them. But I think that's beautiful. As long as it's not making him, with his mates, making him a, butt of being teased or something. But I think being comfortable in your own skin and being comfortable in your own bodies is
and in your
beautiful.
own home.
In your own home, yeah.
I mean, and in Germany, you go into the spas, they're all naked.
Yeah.
And I think what's really interesting is I grew up in a very judgy, this toxic kind of world of body shaming, blah, blah, blah. And I've noticed that most of the girls in my family walk around braless and in their knickers. And when I was young, that was absolutely verboten at home. Yeah. If there was a man around, they don't care.
No.
And we don't care.
No.
And they're just, because their bodies are their bodies and nobody's, and I think we just have to get over ourselves.
Yeah.
And
do what's comfortable for you. I think that I've experienced anyway the damaging tone in it can be when we go, ugh. You're not wearing any clothes. Yuck. Put some, that make it like disgusting somehow. And you hear it all the time. It sounds a bit extreme, but if you listen, ooh, yuck. And I think that's really damaging.
I completely agree. And if you can't be relaxed in your own home.
Yeah.
So I think you're doing fine.
Yeah.
Let him wander around with everything out if that makes him happy.
But if that makes you uncomfortable, it's all about boundaries, isn't it? Then, then maybe that's not the right thing in your home. But
it's up to you. It's up to you. What do you think?
Great.
We'd love to. Anybody else got any ideas? Do tell me. I'm sure we've got some really conservative people or even more liberal people. Yeah. Let us know. Do you have a nugget?
I do. So it's been a little while. We haven't been doing this for a few weeks, have we? Summer holiday, which is lovely.
You're still rusty.
Yeah, I can't speak. Although that's not any. And what has popped up for me a few times is this kind of old chestnut of, I think it's I first read it anyway, in Eckhart Tolle. I think that's how you pronounce his surname. I'm never sure. Tolle. In The Power of Now, of the only pain is resistance to the present moment.
Fascinating.
And I first read it and went, what? Nah. But actually, I completely buy into that. And we resist stuff. So I've been practicing sometimes, and summer holidays are, they come with stuff, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, life comes with stuff. And it's when we want things to be different from how they are, we resist. So that could be on holiday. You want things, you think things should be a particular way. You've maybe dreamt of it being a particular way, or exam results, or just daily life. And you think it's going to be one way and something happens and it's not that way. And then we massively resist and we maybe feel disappointed, or we try and force it to be another particular way because we can't quite get over the fact that it isn't how we imagined it. And if we can just let go and accept that this moment is how it is, like surrender to this moment, stop resisting it, then we can take action. But if we're just focusing on the disappointment or the resistance, or this is so unfair, I want it to be different, then we get stuck. And when so much resentment and, I don't know, disappointment, upset can come into it. So this moment, so I've been practicing sometimes, this moment is how it is. I thought it was going to be different, but this is how it is. So now what do we do? Now what?
Yeah, interesting. Very mindfulness.
Very mindful. I've been very mindful.
I like that. I have been writing a course I've told you about, and it's about how to be a fearless parent. And there's one section in it I've been working on, and I keep going over it because I want to hone it and make sure it's as useful as possible. And it's about how to find out what your values are. And it's really important to me.
Yeah.
And so I've tried it on the different people in my family, including myself. And it's the most incredible thing, because I now have understood how I've got one particular child who doesn't really share the same values as me. And I, quite a while ago, said to her, you don't share the same values as me. And she didn't understand what I was talking about. And it was a clash. We had a real kind of moment where I was really cross. And what's great is we've actually sat down, defined her values clearly, and they are different. And now she was very comfortable talking about her values, because I said to her, this isn't about judgment. This is about how do you live your life and what's important to you. And by codifying the values, because originally this was for parents, but I thought actually this is good for children too. By codifying those values, it's given us something that is separate from us that we can identify and we can talk about. And it's like it's like just being handed an incredible Jedi sword. I just feel so much more powerful now, empowered, not powerful. I feel so much more empowered in having conversations that don't end up feeling emotional and fraught.
Yeah, I guess it's
incredible.
It sounds amazing. I mean, values are at the fundament of everything, aren't they? But if we don't know what they are, then we're swimming around in the dark a bit, aren't we?
Exactly. So, and I've never done this before.
Amazing.
And actually, so it's great. So I will, once I've finished the course, I'll tell you all about it. But anyway.
I'm going to borrow that for my kids, because I do it for myself. And I think for adults, it's quite a kind of a used thing, isn't it? You need to know what your values are, and then
I've never done it.
Them.
I never knew. I never done it. Didn't know how to do it. And I've been searching a lot. And I hadn't found anything I particularly thought. So I've written one. I've written a whole load of exercises to use. And they're different. They're coming at it from different angles, so that by the end of it, you've got an ability to A, say what your values are, and B, categorize them. Amazing. So what's the most important? So that if you actually come up against a situation, you can check which ones.
Yeah, it makes choices much more easy. And I think they do change as well over time. So it's really always interesting to go back and reevaluate.
Yes, but they tend to be quite stable, but they will evolve.
Yeah.
So we don't decide our values, we uncover them.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go back to driving. Yes, it's great. I'm excited. Anyway, driving. I always like to anchor our discussions in statistics or something, research, don't I? Yes.
Very good at them.
So back in 2017, I found it feels like yesterday, doesn't it? 2017. Do you know that was actually 7 years ago?
And it also feels like ages ago.
7 years ago. Anyway, the Guardian newspaper in that year had a headline which read, "The U-turn generation," good headline, "have British teenagers stopped learning to drive?" And it then went on to say that there'd been an 18% drop over 10 years in the number of teens taking driving tests. But then it said under closer inspection, they think the trend was in reverse.
Okay.
Wrong. The banking website GoHenry has a good article on this topic. And according to a new statistic, only a third of 17 to 25-year-olds now hold a license or even driving.
A third?
A third.
Wow.
Now, this is in the UK, but it's not only the UK.
No,
this is
gosh,
actually, yes. There was a survey done by The Guardian in August last year covering 18 to 25-year-olds in Britain, Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, Spain and Sweden. 54% of 18 to 24-year-olds said they would or already did only walk, cycle or use public transport. And they said it was to help the climate. Now, to frame this, it was a questionnaire about the climate.
Okay.
The UK's Department for Transport did a similar survey, and they found only 19% of respondents said they weren't interested in driving. So actually, it's not that they're not interested in driving.
It's super expensive.
So the reasons. You don't need the survey, do you? They do these surveys and you think, that's really, no, we need that. The reasons they found were mostly the cost. 41% said it's the cost of lessons, and the rest, it was either the cost of buying the car or the cost of insurance. Yeah. Even amounts. It's cost, right?
It's super expensive.
And, I started out by teaching my daughters to drive. And what I do is I just get them out on the driveway with the clutch, and I say, you're not allowed to use the accelerator pedal at all. And we just do really small maneuvers, reversing up, forward, everything, just so that they can get used to handling a car before they go out onto the roads.
You've got a perfect drive for that as well.
I've got the perfect. And actually, my oldest, who is still learning to drive now, she hasn't been learning to drive for very long. She said to me, Mummy, that was just brilliant, because it's made me so much more aware of the vehicle itself and how to control it in different situations. But I then looked at lessons. A lot of lessons are taken up by, they've had these kind of organisations that have taken over lessons. So, you know, there's the Red School of Driving, the AA School of Driving. And then, so you have to go through them to find an instructor who then you book lessons with, but you don't know the instructor. Yeah, I hate all that.
You can do it privately as
You
well.
can do it privately, but there's a lot of that going on, that whole, you know, and they take your money up front, don't like it at all.
Oh, okay. I
found a lovely, but you see, the problem is most driving instructors are booked up way in advance.
Yeah, I've already got mine in for December.
Exactly.
It's
you see, and
crazy.
I didn't know that because I was on number one and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So top tip for everybody who's got a child coming up to that stage, get it all booked in early.
Yeah, it's
right.
It's kind of
because there aren't enough people. And when it comes to taking your driving test, I feel like shooting myself. I mean, have you booked a driving test?
No, we haven't yet, but it's miles away. So
okay. So I'm just going to say, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it's like in other countries, but part of it was because they claimed it was because of COVID, and then they shut down the testing. Yeah, exactly. But there aren't enough testers. When you want to go and book a driving test, you have to. Well, I don't know if it's myth or it's real, but you have to get up on a Monday morning at 6 a.m. to go into the website and book as soon as you can. And they go within a few minutes, they're gone. All the slots are gone. So you book whatever you can get. And it's months and months and months away. And then what you do is you use an app to try and bring the test forward.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, this is arduous and pointless, and So yeah, absolutely enough of my rambling, but it's annoying.
No, it's really bad, and it's become bad. It didn't used to be like that.
No,
since COVID, and
yes,
we're not in COVID anymore, so I don't know why it's not improved.
Yeah, it's infuriating. So anyway, let's go back and look at cost. In a survey by Go Compare, which is a kind of insurance comparison website, over half of parents said they had done something to help financially contribute to their child's first car. These questions come up a lot, so I thought it's worth people knowing this. And the average age of the vehicle was 6 years old. Confused.com, which is another comparison website, says Gen Z premiums have increased the most out of all age groups. Now, insurance has increased across the board in many industries. And when I looked at it, it's not that they are making a ton. They're not actually, because this is a really difficult age group.
Yeah, especially the boys. Statistically.
And that is not being sexist. That is statistically true. So why is it so expensive? Globally, road traffic crashes are a leading cause of death among young people, and the main cause of death among those aged 15 to 29 years. Drivers aged 17 to 19 make up 1.5% of licence holders, but are involved in 12% of fatal and serious crashes.
Gosh.
And the problem is, it's not just the people dying, it's the multiple injuries and the other people in the car, right? So it's the amount of people involved is really, it's just terrible. Anyway, so what are the teen driving risks? Inexperience and immaturity. Two slightly different things. So the thing about it is we know, okay, so when I was teaching my daughter, I was taking her to another town where she is going to be learning, she's going to be taking her test. So what we're doing is driving back and forth to this town because it's really good experience. And as we were driving along this road in a village, I saw a group of young kids walking along the pavement. And I clocked them straight away. And suddenly a boy dropped a ball. And I said, Phoebe, stop now. And she said, why? And I said, that boy has just dropped a ball and that ball is going to roll into the road. And he's probably going to run after it. Hopefully he won't, but he did. And she hadn't even seen the kids.
No.
And that's not because she's a bad driver. It's because young drivers are not experienced at what they should see outside the car. And I'm trying to teach them to look outside the car at what's going on around them, because that's the stuff that's really causes some of the accidents.
Experience, isn't it?
It's experience. So here's a good tip. Toyota's Collaborative Safety Research Centre and the University of Massachusetts have created an online free course you can do, which is risk anticipation. And they said what they're trying to do is bridge the gap between people who are experienced drivers and who have learnt through experience to notice these things, and those who have passed the driving test, but they don't learn that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is great.
That's amazing.
I'll put the link in the podcast notes.
Yeah, that is amazing, because it's that you can't really make that stuff up, can you?
Can't accelerate it unless you have that.
Yeah, it's peripheral.
Yes. And weirdly, they even mentioned the ball in the road.
Okay.
And I just went, oh my God, but that happened to us. Yeah. And it's just a classic example, and it happens.
Yeah, I remember reading or hearing some research done around it, that particularly for boys, they were pretty good in the car on their own. But as soon as their mates got in the car, their driving standard just deteriorated immediately.
Yes.
Because they were A, distracted, and B, trying to impress. And it was really, really different.
You're right. So you've got my next...
Sorry.
No, it's great. Susie's ahead of the game. It's absolutely true. And this is the problem.
Sense as well, doesn't it? And we do it ourselves. If you've just learnt a new skill and you're on your own and you're good and giving it 100% concentration, you're all right. As soon as somebody comes in, and maybe as a teenager you're more prone to wanting to impress, the standard deteriorates immediately. It makes total sense.
100% and they said you're more likely to run a red light, more likely to speed, more likely to avoid seatbelt use. And the only time in my life I've had any kind of points on my license, I didn't get points because I went to a speed awareness course, was when I was in a car with my whole family and I drove back from a concert because I hadn't drunk. And we were down a country lane, and we went from down a dark country lane, and we went into a village, and I didn't notice. Yeah. And I should have slowed down, and the camera caught me. And it's because I was chatting, the girls were chatting in the back, we were chatting away. It's easily done, even when you're a very experienced driver.
Very much so.
And according to the National Institute for Child Health and Human Development, teenagers are 75% less likely to get into a car accident if they have an adult passenger.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
It's a stabilising force.
Yes. Distractions, as you said, choosing music, adjusting cooling or heating, referencing guidance systems. We know how difficult our teenagers find it if they get a message to not answer straight away. Right? We know this. So one of the big problems is, teens expect instantaneous responses when they're when they're communicating. So it's very important that they're not with their phone constantly in a car.
And they understand that is a big no.
So all those notifications, I keep saying to my girls, make sure they're switched off, because it's their bing, and then you want to read it, right? Speeding, overall, 25% of fatal teen car crashes involve speeding. Driving under the influence. In the US in 21, 19% of 16 to 17-year-old drivers killed in car crashes had been drinking before.
How much? 19%?
19%. Wow. And a 2019 study revealed 16.7% of US high school students rode with a driver who'd been drinking. Wow. I did this. Yeah. I remember now when I was doing A-levels, because I just wasn't being parented, and we'd been out in a village 10 miles from my home, and how was I going to get home? There was no public transport, and this guy said he'd give us a lift, and I was with another guy, and I got in the car with him, and we got so far, and the other guy I was with said, "We are getting out of this car. He's drunk. Now stop the car. We're getting out." I hadn't even noticed. No, I wasn't thinking at all. I just to this day I think, thank God he noticed. I was just oblivious. So actually it's one of those things where we've talked about this before. If you can talk about it beforehand and prepare them to notice. Yes. Because it's that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, being aware of it, that some people do drink.
Yes, and don't be in that car with them.
No.
Because they're the ones you can't trust.
No, and it's better to walk home all night.
To walk home. Or call me.
To end up in a ditch.
Anything. Tiredness. According to the US National Sleep Foundation, 55% of vehicle crashes attributed in part to driving while drowsy, involving 55%? Male drivers under 26.
Wow, 55%.
Yeah, that's a big number.
That's a big number, yeah.
But our teens are chronically tired. Yeah. And you think about the pressures on them, and if they're going out having fun with their mates.
And also because of the lack of experience, if they're a little bit tired, that's going to make more of an impact, isn't it? Whereas maybe we would get away with it a bit more because we have the experience. Not
wearing a seatbelt. Back in 2020, a study showed that 56% of teen fatalities involved them not wearing a seatbelt.
Wow.
It's a shocking number.
That's crazy.
Like,
just
why?
put it on.
Nowadays we have cars that just beat. My car won't leave the
it's so
drive without
annoying.
being annoying, right?
I picked up my daughter and her friends really late last night. They were at a party, and one of them hadn't put the seatbelt on, and they were fiddling around in the dark, and we were all going, "Put it on!"
Yes,
it
driving
drives
us
you
nuts.
insane. It's
Yes,
crazy.
So cars nowadays, and more modern cars,
Yeah, I guess they're
and
old,
this is
aren't
the
they?
problem.
Yeah.
When you think back to that statistic I gave, where most people buy kids older cars, they won't have those things in place. So it's worth thinking about that. Time of driving. Stats from US of fatal teen car accidents in 2021. Here are my little stats again. 50% occurred between 6 p.m. and 3 a.m.
Wow.
So we know that's kind of going out in the evening.
Yeah, and darkness
And the
makes
dark.
a difference.
Darkness. Again, I said to Mike, because my daughter's, all her driving at the moment is in the light.
Yeah.
And then she'll pass a test and she'll be
so
driving in the
different.
dark. I don't think so.
Different.
Half happened over the 3 days of the weekend.
Okay.
So think about it. They have passengers.
Yeah.
They've been drinking. Yeah. They're driving to less familiar locations.
And maybe they're driving more because they don't
driving
use it
more
in the weekday, maybe.
Sure, absolutely. 38% occurred over just 4 months, which were the summer months of May through to August. Okay. So it's not even that the road conditions are tricky.
No,
right? Okay, so what can we do? Let's
just not let them drive, I think.
No. We want our kids driving because then we don't have to keep taking them everywhere. Right, so what can we do? Well, in the UK, interestingly, a Labour MP, Kim Ledbetter, has introduced a new bill to Parliament designed to cut down on the number of deaths and injuries, and it's called a graduated driving licence. And this has been tried in New Zealand, and it seems to be a really good idea. And actually, there are a lot of bodies who are behind it. So it's a system that slowly gives you more freedom. So you don't just, because now in the UK, you pass and then you have to wear a P on your car for a year afterwards or something like that.
You don't have to, though, do you?
You don't have to.
It's invitational.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
it's not, I don't think it's legal.
I don't even know. I haven't looked at it.
No, I think it's something you can if you want to, so no one does.
Oh. So the idea would be that you would have restrictions for newly qualified drivers.
Yeah.
Particularly the first 6 months. So 0 alcohol limit. New drivers would have to be supervised by a licensed and experienced adult. So you are allowed to drive, but you have to have someone in the car with you, like a grown up. Yeah. Controls over the number of young passengers allowed. And then you'd get more privileges. But I mean, this varies country to country, but this is the idea behind it.
I know in Australia you have to have this P thing for a year, and they're really, really strict, because we were there and we're with somebody who was worrying about having that P taken away. And then I think you have to do another test or something. It's really strict. That was my understanding of it.
That's
anyway.
good. Here's what we can do. There's telematics, which are black boxes, and those will monitor the speed and driving style and other factors, and they can be used to set curfews on young drivers, and you will get a discount on their insurance. Yeah. So win-win.
And you're in big trouble if you go over it. I know someone who did.
Oh, really?
And it's really expensive.
Is it? How does it work?
I can't remember, and I didn't know all the details, but I know that it didn't end well.
Okay, so yeah, use it at your peril.
No, it's a good thing.
Really, but it will also help you find that vehicle if it's been stolen.
Yeah, and you get warnings and stuff. Yes. This particular case was a bit silly.
I found a couple of things that I thought looked really cool, and I probably will investigate them for my daughter when she passes. One is called Marmalade's Telematics, which you stick a small box to your car windscreen and download an app, and you pay per mile. And so this family bought their son 500 miles worth of driving, cost them around £380, which sounds really cheap to me. And she said you can then top it up once he gets close to that. But the thing on the screen monitors his driving.
And so that's for the insurance. Yeah.
It's for the insurance, and it monitors his driving, and it gives feedback like what's his braking, right? Yeah. So it's like having a black box, and the insurance is directly related to it, and it's a by mile. Yeah. So with a lot of these kids, they're not driving that much. No. You know, if you're not driving for work, or it's just okay. And then Aviva is targeting drivers under 30 with an app-based car insurance. Quote me happy Connect, which again rewards safe driving. Okay. You pair your mobile, and they monitor. You get given a weekly driver rating, so red, amber, green, or gold, and it records speed, smoothness, distractions with your mobile phone because it's connected to the and you get regular advice on how you can improve your driving. So there are things like that, which I'm going to investigate because they look really good. So I think what's happened is the market's evolved because the insurers are going, we don't want it to be so expensive, but it's really expensive for us. So we need to pass that on. Yeah. So we need to find ways of mitigating the problems. Yeah. And I did actually look through a whole load of apps, which I thought, it'd be good to recommend some apps. The problem is they're most of them are country specific. And I'll tell you, just a search engine to find a good app. One thing I know is Life 360 is useful. And I know it's useful because my daughter got into a car with a friend and I was told they were going to drive 60 down the motorway. And I watched as it went 60, 70, 80.
Oh.
No.
Wow. How could you see that?
Because you can see it.
Oh, okay.
Life 360 shows you the driving speeds.
I see.
It will also tell you at the end of the drive. It will send you a message and tell you at the end. So another thing you could do is, if you don't have this in place, is you can say you can drive on condition that you download Life 360 and you do not try and tamper with it. And I can see what your drives have been like. Yeah. Okay.
It's tricky, isn't it? But it's dangerous.
It's dangerous. So I would personally, I'm a fan of the parent-teen driving agreement, and I will put the list of the categories, but it's worth creating a driving agreement where you say, look, we're going to talk through these things and we're going to have consequences if you aren't following what we consider to be safe. And so you decide what those consequences might be, but they make them directly related to the car. And what are they responsible for? So if they get a parking ticket, who's responsible? If they have court fees, if they, ding their car, who is paying for all these things? So have those conversations before.
Yeah, that's a really good idea because it's not just about the petrol, is it?
It's not just about the petrol. And what we've done with all the kids is we own the car and we insure it. And then they get use of it. And what was really interesting recently was the older girls were using it and then they decided to take it up to London because they said it's really inconvenient having to come down to get it. So we're going to have it in London for a while because no one else is really using it. And our response was, it's not insured to be parked in London because you insure based on your geographical postcode. Yes. And we said, so if you decide that you want to own the car, you can own the car, but you can insure it. You can pay for all the cost of driving around London because there are all sorts of tolls for driving in a city. And they said, okay, can we have 24 hours? And we said, absolutely, no problem. We'll give you the car if you really want it. 24 hours later, the car was ours. They didn't want it. So once they understand what's involved, and insuring to be in London is really expensive. Yeah. So
Good strategy.
Yes. So
it is true. It's really expensive.
And please, guys, if you're going to use the car, bring it back with a full tank.
Yes.
Yeah, don't leave it on the drive with almost nothing in it because someone else wants to use it. Yeah. So it's a kind of we're using a carpool. Yeah. And they'll have to just check in with each other. Yeah. So enforcing zero tolerance for drinking and driving. Discuss potential scenarios that could put them in difficult positions. So this is the thing, right? So let's say you did go to a party and you didn't intend to, but you did drink. How would you deal with that? Let's say you went to a party and you weren't the driver, but someone said, could you drive my car home? But you're not insured. Let's say you had somebody who would give you a lift home. Do you check in with them about their drinking and do you find another way home? Right, just go through the scenario so that they know and they know how you view it.
Yeah, so that they have a ready response. That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, because I always think if you're pre-prepared, it gives them a speed bump.
Yeah, it's comfortable.
And remind the kid about the consequences of breaking the law, because our kids can't see over these hills. It's just not something they've been thinking about. So we need to tell them what's the cost of losing their driver's license. What about driving under the influence? They'll have a permanent record. What about, and that will impact job options, court fees. The fact they might kill someone. Yeah. Because they weren't thinking, they were having fun. Yeah. Another one, which I always hate, and I think we all do, be a good role model. And I'm very conscious of this. I'm not always the best role model. No. And I do think about this. I do, and the problem is I learnt to drive in London. Yeah. And you have to be quite an assertive driver
Yeah.
if you drive in London, whereas I live in the countryside and I'm trying to sort of control my driving a bit so that I'm not quite as assertive.
We're all reading between the lines.
Yeah, and well, no, it's just I and also just putting my phone somewhere where I can't reach it when I'm driving, so that my kids can actually see me doing this.
Yes.
And it's not enough for me to say yes, but I'm a really experienced driver. I actually have to walk the walk.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right, and we do need to check up on that.
It's not. Sorry, guys. No. Jam. We can also choose vehicles based on this, but again, it's down to how much money you have.
Yeah.
And we're using a secondhand vehicle.
Yeah.
And we bought it a year off the forecourt because it's much cheaper. Yeah. And this one's been scratched quite a bit. Yeah. We're using the same vehicle to teach the different kids, because why would I want to get a new vehicle that gets... And a friend of mine got given a new vehicle before she went to university. And guess what? She rolled it.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, it gets nicked.
It gets nicked. Exactly. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
How do we feel about...
I'm now kind of going to cancel the driving lesson.
No, you're not. No, I don't want this. I do not want this to be about that. I want this about empowering us.
Yeah, no, it's super important
to know what we can do to prepare our kids and make them feel confident. Because I think if you've gone through all of this, and then they know what the deal is.
It's amazing. I mean, I remember learning to drive. It was my pathway to freedom. It's really empowering. It's amazing. And lots, if they want to get some, jobs, if they go, whatever they want to do, to be able to drive is super, super helpful. Yeah. It's really important.
It really is.
Yeah. And it's much easier to learn when you're a teenager than as in everything.
True.
Than when you're older. Both, our brains work differently.
Yes, hope we haven't scared you witless. If you found this episode useful, please share it with at least one other person, or on your social media account if you want. You could give us a review on Apple, Audible, send us a text message, or go to the website, which is www.teenagersuntangled.com, where you can also search through the old episodes. Susie is available for mindfulness training in companies, as well as one-to-one. She can help you adjust your mindset.
Yeah, I'm doing quite a lot of stuff in the workplace. So if anyone's interested in
that. Yeah, think about that, because actually for sort of change management, teams working better together.
It's really powerful and really important.
It's really empowering. And she's had amazing reviews. Go on her website. You can see really amazing feedback, seriously. And LinkedIn. Great feedback on there, I'm seeing. Where can they reach you?
They can find me go to my website, and then all the links are on that. www.amindful-life.co.uk.
Yeah, share it around. That's it. My email address is teenagersuntangled@gmail.com. I have some amazing guests coming up, including the author of The Essential Guide to Raising Complex Kids, which I have to say is an amazing book, and the author of the book that's just come out called Exam Nation. Ooh. We'll be talking about why our obsession with grades fails everyone.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
I know. You are going to love it. You're going to love it. He's so interesting. It's a really entertaining book if you want to buy. So entertaining as well as being very informative. Good. Love it. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of this. Have a great week. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.